Okay. Good. Okay. Good evening, everyone from this side of the world. Uh, Welcome once again to our class. Before I proceed, I would like to confirm if everyone can hear me properly. So please, if you can hear me, okay, cool. Okay, cool. Okay, cool. So just go ahead and proceed with the class. So, for today's class, we are doing introduction to front-end development. So, give me a minute. Let's look at this. Second. Okay. Okay. So for today's class, we are doing introduction to front-end development. Um, I'm assuming that most of us must have heard of front-end development in a way. Even if you have not heard of front-end development, maybe you have heard of stuff like HTML, CSS, and JavaScript for the front end, stuff like that. I'm assuming you have, but if you haven't, it's still not a deal breaker. It's why we are all here to learn. So, for this slide, we'll be focusing on things that makes front end important. I don't like to be part of the debate. You see people always debating. Back end is more important than front end. They both need each other because if your front end is not appealing enough, your users will not want to even interact with your software, be it web app or mobile app. It's until when your UI can draw them closer, your front end draw them closer to use your products, then they can start looking at if your product is functional or not. So front end, back end, they are all important. So I'll be diving right into the class. So I will cover as much as we can for today. So far this is class 16. In other words, we have done up to like 15 classes already. I hope you guys are following. For those that are still stuck, I hope you guys have find time to go and watch previous videos so that you can meet up with everything that's been done so far. So with that being said, probably I'll be doing more of questions. I'll be asking more of questions today. But first, let me start with what we'll cover today. So, for today, we'll be starting with the overview of front-end development. We'll be discussing on front-end versus back-end. We'll be looking at the key difference. We'll also be talking on basic web technology stack. Then we'll be looking at HTML basics, CSS fundamentals, introduction to Tailwind CSS, a framework of CSS. Then we'll also be looking at JavaScript fundamentals. So, can we proceed? I'll just, for some reason, few minutes, please. I need to confirm. Yeah. So, I guess we'll proceed. I'll just wait a bit to ensure because the comment section is a bit slow. Okay, so I think we can proceed. Okay, so I'll proceed to the first slide. So first, I'll be looking at the learning objectives, okay? So by the end of this session, participants will be able to explain the purpose of front-end development and how it differs from back-end development because they are different. You need to know the difference. Build basic web pages using HTML, understand common elements and page structure, style web content using CSS and apply the box model and selectors effectively, okay? Then we will use Tailwind CSS class to rapidly style elements with a utility fetch approach. Write simple JavaScript code to add interactivity and manipulate the DOM. So I think that is that. We'll dive right into the class. So assuming there's no question yet because we barely started. So let's just move into the class. Okay. You will get to know that someone is asking what is box model. We just started. Don't worry, you get to know what that means. So let's dive in. What is front end development? So, front end development, you're hearing front end, you're hearing development. I'll just go ahead with the definition we have here. And like I've been saying on my previous classes, I'm not all about definitions. It's good you know definitions, but don't just know probably right operating somewhere. It should make meaning to you. So what does front end mean to you? If you say front end is all about what the users see, that is fine as far as you understand it. Okay. So front end development focus on everything the user sees and interacts with in a web application. It runs in the browser. So now today we are hearing client side. In the previous classes where we have been doing more of backend, database related and all, we'll be hearing server side. So everything relating to front end is client side. Client because the users are the clients, okay? They're the one that will interact with the software. The server side is where all the logic and everything will be hosted on more of backend stuff and all. Server side, you're looking at database and the APIs. Front, you're looking at your browser, the front end. So, core responsibilities of front end development. Uh, Structure content using HTML, style elements using CSS. So, what I have outlined here is already we'll get to that part, but what I have listed here already is telling you the major parts that makes up front end. So when you're looking at front end, you're looking most likely at HTML, CSS, and JavaScript. Yes, JavaScript we have been calling before now. Now we are hearing it again. So the thing is, before now, JavaScript was mainly for front end, before the whole Node.js stuff, or now you can use JavaScript for backend as well. But let's focus on this. So HTML is all about structuring the content, right? CSS is about styling it, while JavaScript focuses on behavior and making all your components interactive. Okay, so the last one on core responsibility of a front development is ensuring responsive design and cross-browser compatibility. So the thing is this, even if it's too early to start saying this, but it's good we set up that good foundation and base. When you are designing something for front end, you should realize that you are not designing just for your computer. You should realize that you should also make plans for other computers, probably with different resolution, different from your own device, that be interacting with your web app. Okay, I'm saying web app now because I'm focused on front end. So, be it a mobile phone or maybe a tab or maybe a screen, depending independent of the resolution, you should make sure that whatever you are building is responsive. When I mean responsive, based on the size of the screen available to that software or to that web app, it adjusts for everything to suit in properly. Okay, so you should start taking note of this gradually. So, technology used for front end development, we have the HTML, the CSS, and JavaScript. Let me start asking questions quickly. I'm assuming this is not the first time I've heard of the word HTML. Can anybody help us with the meaning of HTML? CSS. We all know what JavaScript is. So what is HTML and CSS? I'll just look quickly. If the moment I get an answer, we can quickly proceed on that. From there, I can see if there's any questions. But for now, I'm not sure there's any question. Okay. Okay, so we have hypertext markup language. Okay, that is good. So that is good. Thank you. So what of CSS? Does anyone know the meaning of CSS? Okay, I'm assuming you guys know this already. Probably you guys should be the one taking my place. So it's like people are more excited of this. You are tired of the whole stress from the whole backend stuff and all. Yeah. So CSS stands for cascading style sheets. Okay. Use it for styling. HTML is more of what structure. Then JavaScript, like I say, is for what? Making your whole component interactive, adding behavior, bringing it to life, adding animation, stuff like that. You need what? JavaScript. Okay, so we also have optional tools. Optional because even if you intend not to use them, that doesn't mean you can't properly design your front end, your web page, and all. But the thing is, these tools are added for stuff like this to be easy for you. Automatically, they are designed in such a way that the moment you are using them, you're already making your web app responsive. Your design is responsive. So there are a lot of them. We have Tailwind, we have Bootstrap, we have Semantic UI. But for this course, we'll be focusing on Tailwind. Okay. But like I said from the previous class, it's not a must you stick to this. Like for instance, now we did our stuff with a TypeScript, our backend. That doesn't mean that PHP is useless. It doesn't mean that Python is useless. What we are focused on is you grabbing the fundamentals of this, okay? Then you can decide to choose any language of your choice. In fact, what I will recommend is try to play with one or two. Okay, few minutes, please. Okay, so like I was saying, so what I will recommend is this. Apart from the TypeScript I've shown you guys, we need you guys to try and explore by using other programming languages. This is not front, I'm saying in general, and I'll tell you why. By the time you expose yourself to using various programming languages, you get to understand what programming is all about. So programming is not involving around the language itself. The language itself is just a syntax. I've been saying this several times and I won't stop saying it. The moment you grasp the concept of actual programming, the language will just be a breeze for you. You can easily switch from one language to another. That is why practicing and playing around different languages will help you understand this fundamental. If there is a way to, let's say, square a number in a certain language, you know that squaring a number is possible. And other various languages should have provision for that. So same with these optional tools we have here. Feel free to practice with Tailwind, Bootstrap, Semantic UI. We have Material UI as well. Okay, so it doesn't end here. The journey continues with you. So let's proceed. I just hope I'm not too fast. I'm not sure I've said anything so far. I'll quickly look at the question if there's anything relating to this. But so far, I think we're all on a good space. There's no question. So we'll proceed. So, why front end development matters? So, if you recall, I started this class by saying that between front end and back end, there's no one more important than the other. Okay, the two actually needs to interact. So, importance of front end development, we have create user experience (US) and first impression of a website or a app. So the thing is this: in the past, it's like I like telling stories, but it's what it is. In the past, I happened to work with someone building a software. Back then, I was all about just focusing on making sure things are functional. But after going through the stress of making the whole stuff functional, all the client was saying is it's not working. I'm like, what do you mean it's not working? It took me a while before I understand that it was more focused on the design. So the thing is, if the design is not the design and the appearance of the page is not speaking to him, he's not even encouraged to even use the app in the first place. That is why the first impression matter. How do people feel when they visit your website? Maybe be it your portfolio, or maybe you're asked to design design anything, maybe a dashboard for a client. What is that first impression they get when they visit your website? Does the website feel noisy, too much colors? Is there a certain flow? So you need to ensure that your design captures that. So that's why it's really important that if just doing your front end, you make sure you're good at it. So remember, this course is a full software development course. It's not just focused on just backend. So we are trying to equip you to the point whereby you can do something from start to finish. Okay. So proceed. We already said the first impression of a website matters based on the user experience. The next important we have here is directly affect usability, accessibility, and performance. So there are some kind of tests you run when you begin to work in some organization called usability tests, whereby you give some random, maybe some set of group your software, maybe a web app, ask them to navigate by themselves to see if they can find their way to do things without you directing them. So when building something, you want to ensure that some things are your structure, the structure you have laid down is easy for people to follow. Okay, you don't, for instance, now let's say you are building an app whereby you need people to log in, to log in to have access. You don't want to hide the login button. You want to clearly show them stuff like this is login, this is sign up. You put it in a place whereby they can't easily skip it. You don't want to build a website whereby probably there was a page I was navigating not too long ago. Login was successful, but I was going around the app to look for logouts. So stuff like that. So how you build, take note of all these things determines how you draw people to use your software. And it's still involving that front end. In other words, without front end, backends are just JSON response and all. But that is not saying that backend is not important. If you have to even ask me, well, let me know answer that question so I will not cause another issue. So let's leave it at that. So real world relevance, okay? So we use it in websites, dashboard, admin panel, e-commerce, mobile friendly app. There is a lot. So valuable skills for web developers, UI UX designers, product team. So some people might be surprised now we are seeing product team over here, like what, why? It doesn't really concern them. But the thing is this, in the past, another story, I'm sorry. I happened to interview someone. I was looking for someone that would be a product manager in our company, and I'm like, how do you tell? Let me assume that we are trying to get somebody for a backend role, and you have not coded before, and you probably be the one that will tell this person that I need you to do this thing within 2 minutes or 3 minutes, within 1 day or 2 days. How can you tell if that person is not giving you a time that is not reasonable if you don't have experience of all this? So coming back to here, we are seeing product team here because they should be able to tell if whatever you have presented to them is right for the market they're trying to target. Okay, so let's leave that. So career look at. So there's high demand for front-end developers. In fact, at a point in time in my life, I was tempted to switch. Okay, I hope I've not mentioned what I love more, but I was tempted to switch to doing front-end developers because the request for them is a lot. It's just a lot. So another thing is foundation for going into full stack or specialized front-end role. So you cannot call yourself a full stack if your front end is not front enough. Let me use that word. Okay. So your back end needs to be good. Your front end needs to be good as well. Okay. So I'll proceed with the next slide. I'm assuming no question yet, so I've not really touched anything. So let's see. So what I have here now is just basic difference between front end versus back end. So I categorize this difference in terms of what they run on, their main focus, examples of languages that are revolved around data handling, user access, and example tooling. So in terms of front end, we already know it's for the client. It runs on your what? On your browser. And for those that will ask what browser is, it's like your Chrome, your Edge, if people are still using that, your Chrome, your Edge, your Brave browser, UC browser, your Opera browser, and all. It runs on your browser. Why backend? Server. Server. So we'll still have a chance to see how we can push to an actual server, hopefully. So you see how that works, okay? But for now, let's focus on this. So main focus. So for front end, the main focus is more of the UI and UX. Okay, the user experience, the layouts, the interactions. Okay, that's for front end. While for backend is revolving around business logic, data, and processing. So how do people log in? What do you need to do? When people probably want to get quotes, how do you get the right quote for them, either based on ID? It's revolving around logic and data. So in terms of language for frontend, we use more of HTML, CSS, and JavaScript. For backend, we have Python, Node.js, we have Java, we have C++, we have C Sharp. So like I say, still find time to play with all these things, okay? It will help you. Then In terms of data handling, Frontend, all Frontend does is more of fetch and display, right? Fetch and display, trigger actions, stuff like that. But for backend, you look at store, process, secures. Okay. Then user access directly visible to the user. Then backend hidden from the user. So you see this particular line, it has caused some issues in some places I've worked. You see whereby probably you have a front end or have a back end, they will all join together to design something and it's working fine. But guess who gets the praise? The front end guys. Many a times people don't remember that back end are doing something to make sure this thing is working functionally. But mostly what they believe is as far as they are seeing something is appealing, they click on it, it work. Front end, well done. But that is not an issue for us. So in terms of tools we have for front end, we have Tailwind CSS, we have React, we have Vue.js. In terms of backend, we have Express.js, we have Dango, we have PostgreSQL, the type of database. So I think for now, there can be more than this. I'll leave that to you, but for now, I feel this is enough. So with that being said, is there any questions so far? I'm doubting if there's any. I'm feeling this class will go as easy as possible because it's like most of us are familiar with this whole front end stuff. So is there any question? I'll quickly look at the chat if there's any question pertaining to this. Okay. So let's see. So for now, I guess we are good. But React learn on a server. Okay, I get your problem. So the thing is this. When we say, okay, let me not add to your problem. Let's just leave that. I'll just leave that for now. Because even the React you are talking of, there's still some code that needs to run that converts everything to your basic HTML and CSS before it's run, but it's not what. So let's just focus. Does the software developer scope exceed the front end and back end? So for me, I can easily answer this question by saying no. But the thing is this, I'm assuming that you don't want your software development journey to just end up being just backend and frontend. Because so far, what we have teach you so far, there's high possibility that those that focus on doing it. For instance, the part of data gathering, the part of arranging how the database should look like, stuff like that, how to put your code to the server, of which will show you that on a norm, something like that should be specified to people who call DevOps. But there are some software developers that do that. I also do that myself. So if you know all these knowledges, it gives you an edge for you to build something from start to finish and get it hosted without needing help from anyone. Okay? So but be it as in may, whether you are into front end or you're into back end, there will still be the one you favor more. I will allow you guys to discover that yourself. But I believe as time goes on, you will get to know that. Okay. So I'll be going to the next slide. Is HTML a programming language? I answered that in this slide. Already, if you look at the definition of HTML, it's hypertext markup language, not programming language. It does not have any logic. Okay, so let's proceed. I believe there's no more question. So we're going to the next slide. Basic web technological stacks. I'm coming. I think this is not it. Let me see. Hold on. Okay, basic web technology stacks. Okay, cool. So we have HTML. So I need you guys to focus on this part, especially for those that is the first time you're getting to use stuff like front end. Your first time hearing the word front end development. Your first time being exposed to stuff like HTML and CSS. So please just pay attention. So HTML, like we all say, stands for what? Hypertext markup language. It provides the skeleton of a web page. Okay. So for HTML, you use tags like we have H1, we have P, we have A, they are contact. There's a lot of them. So mostly for HTML, all you'll be doing is more of what? Anchor tags. When we get to that point, I'll give examples on that. For CSS, you are looking at, first of all, the full meaning of CSS is what? Cascading style sheets. It controls the layout, color, font, spacing, and more. Okay, and it can be inline, it can be internal or external. We'll get to explain that as well. So let's do a quick demo. Probably let's write our first HTML page. Give me some minutes. We'll share my screen so that we can do that. Okay. Okay, so I think I'll do that when we get to HTML document. So let's proceed. We'll explain that basically. So JavaScript. JavaScript, like we said, it adds behavior. It adds interaction to your web page. Okay, it's the programming language of the web. But mind you, it can also be used as what backend in terms of what Node.js. Okay, so it adds interactivities like button, animation, form validation. It runs in the browser. That is what client side. We have an example there, of which you'll find time to practice with all of them. So for optional tools and enhancements for CSS framework, we have Tailwind, like I mentioned, we have Bootstrap. So the reason we use all these things because they have already predefined classes. I will see if we can explain what classes mean later. That you can just apply to your elements. I'm calling elements now, it's like another thing. But hold on. That you can easily apply to your elements for styling. Okay. For your JavaScript framework, we have React, Vue, jQuery. There was a time jQuery was the king of it all, but for now, you hardly see it in use. So we have React, Vue, Angular. I think yeah, Angular is in use for advanced interactivity. Okay. Version control, which we already did, the likes of Git and GitHub. Then our dev tool, we are using VS Code. I'm assuming almost everyone is using VS Code by now. VS Code shouldn't be new to you guys if I'm not mistaken. Okay. Okay. Okay, so let's proceed. I'm looking at the quiz set. Then next we have what Chrome develop dev tools. So let's dive in. HTML. So no need to go over what HTML stands for. I'll just focus on the key points. Markup means it uses targets to define elements on a page. So everything you see on the HTML, the tags, in most cases we call them what elements, okay? Be it the H1, be it the anchor tag, be it your break, be it your HRO, they are all called elements, okay? It tells the browser what to display and how to structure, e.g., we have headings, paragraph, links, image. We get to play with some of all this. So for the person that asks if HTML is a programming language, like I have here on my slide, HTML is not a programming language. It doesn't perform logic or action. It is a sort structural language. So let's play now. Let's go and write our first HTML document. I'll be sharing my screen now. Please let me know when you can see my screen. Okay. Okay. So you should be able to see my screen in a few minutes. In the meantime, I'll look to see if there's any question pertaining to this or any question that I feel will help you. I'll go ahead and answer them. So someone say I'm having a problem launching my web page on the internet without Google domain and GitHub. Is there any other way you can do this? Okay. We still have the time to do our DevOps practical, so I'll ask you to wait a bit. We'll get to that part. Just exercise some patience. But you can research as well. In fact, it'd be nice for you to find a way to do this before then. So I'll allow you to continue exploring. There are ways you can do this. So probably you are not searching the right way. So the thing is this. There are stuff that differentiates you being a developer from every other regular programmer and all. Is knowing the right thing to search for. For instance, now we now have AI. Some people already feel like, why do I bother stressing myself to learn how to code when I can easily tell AI I want to build this and all, and you get your code and you run. But the thing is this, if you don't have good knowledge of this, you won't know the right question to ask. You will not know how to debug, that is looking for errors. You will not know if what you're even getting from the AI is the right stuff. Probably all you'll be focused on is just testing and all. Okay, so please. I'll try sharing my screen again. It's like it's not coming up, so please give me some minutes. So I'll share again. Oh, shit. Okay. Okay, I think my screen was up. I was the one that was missing it. Okay, cool. So I will just proceed now. Sorry about that. Okay. So let's proceed. So the first thing I will do is this. I'm going to create a folder. But now you guys should be used to this already. For another name for folder, we have directory, right? We have dir. Then when you're looking at Git, it's called what? Repository. So please get used to all these terms. So let's call this a test project. Nothing much. I'll keep this here. Then I'm going to open my VS Code. Okay. Opening my VS Code now. Okay, so it's already zoomed big, which is good. So I want to open that folder first. The folder is on my desktop. I'm going to select, I even call it text. Okay. So I have the folder open. So I'm going to create my first HTML element. Okay, so I'm going to right click here. I'm going to click new file. Let's call this mfs.html. So in most cases, the first entry point of an HTML is normally called index. Probably I would have just did that so I don't confuse you guys. But it doesn't mean that doesn't mean that if I run this it won't work. Okay. So let me just index, but it doesn't mean I can call it any name I want. So we have index.html. Take note of the extension name. Okay. So what do I do first? No. So someone is asking the difference between HTML and HTML5. So the thing is this. In fact, I think the HTML I started with formally before now, you won't do this whole docs type and all. I'm not sure that really pertains to what you need. I'll get an answer for you later. I can't actually recall. So this is what you should start with. Okay. The first thing you are defining is this. This is part of the syntax that determine that this is HTML5. Okay. So you get this here first. Then the next thing you have is your HTML. So all these things you have here are what? Elements. But there's something you need to take note. There are some elements that have starting and closing. So for instance, now everything starts with what? HTML. Just take this as a constant. The line 1 as a constant, okay? HTML started here and it closed here with the backslash, right? Then all your code goes inside. So what I'm trying to do first for you is to show you the tree structure of an HTML element. So after the HTML, the next thing you should have is head, then body. If you have this, you have already successfully written an HTML element. Then all you should now be focused on is what? Putting content. Okay? All you should be focused now is putting content. So now, I'm just going to save this. It's already on auto save. I'm just going to open this file. So the file is inside the folder. Let me open it. So for now, it's empty. So I want to gradually make changes so you see the difference. Okay, it's empty and it has an header. On the title bar, I'm seeing something index.html, which is the name of the file. Okay, but you can change that. So let's go back to our page. So basically, when you are starting an HTML element in an HTML web page, this is the first thing you should do. Then the next thing I suggest you do is to make sure that you specify the title of that page. So I can call this my first website. I go back to my browser. I refresh. If you notice, the top bar formerly was showing, okay, I don't know if you guys can see it properly. Yeah, you should be able to. Formerly it was showing index.html. Now it's showing what? My first website. So if you notice, this is not like your regular programming language that you write, you run the compiler stores and all before you run the code. No. The moment you write, you save, you reload, you get a result. Okay? So that is why it's not even a programming language. So let's proceed. So the next thing I'm going to do now is I'm going to use an header element. So time will not permit us to, let me just say welcome to class. Time will not permit us to show you all the elements, but please, as usual, you might say I've come again. You're encouraged to please go and research further on this. So it's by the time you research and you get stuck and you reach out to us with the right questions, that is how you go. Okay? Okay. So I'm seeing a question now concerning to stop continuous refreshment. Yeah. So you can get this live server extension and all, but for me, I prefer the regular refresh. So let's proceed. So what I'm going to do now is we have H1. It's an header element. I'm going to go back to my web page. I will load. So what I'll do now is I'm going to duplicate this guy. So I'm going to call this H2. So if you take notes, every element that so far that I've been writing has a starting and ending, right? And they are all nested inside an element. So all the thing I've done so far is inside the body element. There's nothing outside of the HTML part. It's either you're in the head or what, or body. So I'll do this H3. I just want to show you the difference between this guy and the ends at 6. 6. 5, 6. So saved. I go back to my browser. And I load. So we have H1, H2, H3, H4, H5, H6. So before I even proceed further, I hope I've not lost anyone yet. No, we'll get to that. I'm seeing some questions that are questioned so far. We'll get to that. We'll get to that. So is there any question pertaining what I've done so far, first of all? Have I lost anyone? Because this is part of the easiest part of programming. If I'm to call it programming, some people claim that front-end is not even programming, but still, this is the easiest part. If I've lost you so far, please, can you just ask your questions now? Or can we proceed? I will proceed. Can we proceed? Okay, gone. Right. So so far I've been using tags that has what starting and closing tags. Okay, opening and closing tags. Those are the kind of elements I've been using so far. We have other elements that don't require you to put ending and closing. So we have the HR. I'm going to just add some of them. So I can decide to write it like this, or I just do it like this. It will still work. So Then we have the BR as well. Let me do it inside here. BR. So I'll save. I'll go here. Reload. So the BR I entered twice. That's why we have space. So BR stands for break. Okay. The HR is a horizontal line. Okay. That's why I added it twice. So that's why we have two of it here. So please find time to get to know all these things. And one thing I want to also talk on is this. Please, if you want me to kneel down and beg you, I'll be kneel down and beg you. Please start from now to cultivate the habit of making sure that your coding is indented properly. So what do I mean by indentation? If you look at this now, inside the HTML, we have, when I wanted to write the head elements, it moved in. I moved it in. I'm talking of this part. I moved it in, right? Then when I wanted to do the body, they're on the same level, I came out. If I need to write another element, let me say there's an element called div, I would still tab in. Let me say I do something like this. I can do another div again. So the reason I'm saying this is it will be easier for you to know where an element starts and where it ends. And this doesn't just pertains to front end. In fact, everything relating to programming, try and keep everything neat. If not, if you work on a project whereby you're not the only one working on it and you are doing things on, probably instead of doing something like this, I just come here and I do it like this, something like this. It will be obvious that if probably this guy is still finding it hard to understand what he or she is doing. And it will also cause it will be difficult for you to even track problems when you code like this. So from now, start cultivating the habit of what? Indenting. So so far I've touched just H elements, the header elements, the other elements like anchor that is for links. We have the ones for image, we have the ones for paragraph. Let me even just do a paragraph. I'll take the whole of this off. So let me just do a P. So this is things class so far. So something like this. Okay. I can choose to duplicate this. Okay, let me duplicate this. Something like this. Okay. So I'm just going to run it. I'm just trying to do that for test purpose. So let's go to the browser. So if I refresh, I should see the paragraph I added there. So there is a lot. Today won't be enough to even cover everything, but for now, my main focus, even if you don't get anything today, ensure that you start your code properly. To write any HTML element, first you need the doc type HTML at the top, right? Then you need your what? Your HTML element that has opening and closing tag. Then you need your head that has opening and closing tag. Your head should contain your title. The other stuff that can be in your head, like mental tags, you can research on that, like your links where you can specify style sheets and icon, and scripts, your JavaScripts, they can be in your head. But every other thing goes to the body. Be it list, be it numbering, they all go to the body. So in terms of script, it can either be on the head or on the body. It's dependent on how soon you want to run it, or if it's an external JS file, it's dependent on their instruction. Okay. So let's proceed. I'm hoping I've not lost anyone so far. Is there any question so far? We still have a lot to cover for today, so I will just stop a bit with the examples. Then I'll move to the next slide for now. So stop sharing. No, going to the next slide. Okay, so let's continue with the next slide. So that is the HTML document structure. So like we have here on the slide, we have the doc type HTML. You have your HTML elements. Inside your HTML elements, you have the head and the body. Then inside the head, you have your title. Then inside your body, you can have any other thing inside, whether it's H1, be it paragraph, be it images. You are free to be as creative as you want to be. It's your page. Okay, so let's proceed. I'll be going to common elements. So we have H1 to H6, like the example I displayed not long ago. H1 to H6, yeah. So those are heading tags, headings and titles. Your P element is paragraph. Your A anchor is for links. Your IMG is for imaged. Then you have your UL and LI. You have unordered list and ordered lists, like your numbering and bullets. That is what they are for. Then you have div. Div is for containers. Probably you want to give a certain group of elements a certain style, or you want to place it in a certain position. You probably might use div for that. Then you have forms. Forms in most cases are how you submit inputs from your users back to the API or to the server. Okay, so let's go to CSS now. So we already know the full meaning of CSS, so we won't be dwelling on that. So it's a language used to style and design the web page written in what? In HTML. So key points on CSS. So it controls how HTML element looks in terms of color, font, spacing, layout, etc. It separates content from what? Presentation. So even if your web page has a lot of content and all, it's how you manage your CSS to determine how visually appealing that web page is going to look like. Okay, so it makes your website visually appealing and responsive, adjusting to different screen size. So I've specified, I think I've pointed two key main things for me, like my advice to you. At this earlier stage, if you are building something, if it's front-end related, start focusing on making sure that it's responsive, independent of screen. That is one. Two, make sure that you indent your code properly, be it back end, be it front end. This thing might not make sense to you now, but probably when you start coding and it's difficult for you to debug, you will now know the value of indenting. Okay, please. So let's proceed. So basic syntax for CSS, we have our selector, then the property and value. There's an example. So probably this will make more sense when we practice. So we have the selector here. We have property value. Example is styling a p tag. We are giving it color of blue, font size of 16 pixel. So let's go back to the page we have designed so far. Let's tie some elements there. We won't do nothing much. Probably we'll play with just maybe background color and border and some other stuffs. So I'll be presenting again. I just hope you guys are not tired already. So far, is there any question before I go too far? Have I lost anyone? Or you guys were only lost for the backend movement? Okay. So yeah, so I'm seeing a question like, does Prettier not help you with indenting? Yeah, so Prettier helps you with indenting as well. For me now, if you are to work with someone like me, now that I'm mentioning printer, I might be forced to ask you to use stuff like maybe Notepad. Let me see if you will not learn to indent. So you just have to cultivate the habit. Some people are fond of, probably when they are done coding, they will now highlight everything and press some commands and indent automatically. But there might be times where you might be so exhausted and you won't have time to go back and do those stuff. So when you cultivate the habit from start, it's not really an issue. You will enjoy it. Okay. So I'm going to proceed with our styling, and probably before I proceed with that, let me go back to this. Okay, let's just proceed. Let's just do some color. Okay, so there are three types of styling from the slide, but I won't touch on that yet. So let's just proceed. Let me see. So first thing first, let me use the first type of styling. Let's say I'm going to style this H1 element. Color. I'm going to give it a color of blue. I'm going to reload. I'm going to go to the web page now. So we have our color of blue. So what I just did now is we call it inline styling. Why is it inline? I'm tying the styling directly to the element. So hope you guys know what elements. Now elements are all these tags you have here. There are various types, okay? So what I did was to style here directly. Okay, but there's another way I can do this, which is the next type of styling. Let's do that. Style sheet. Do we want to do that? Okay, yeah, let's do that. Okay, so style. Let's say I do H3. Sorry. Let's do yeah. Save. Go back. I will load. So that is another way you can style. So this one now is called internal styling. But as you advance, you realize that you shouldn't be using all this type of styling except when it's necessary. You are not advised to use inline except it's necessary. You are not even advised to use internal except probably you are using some frameworks that expect you to put your styling file within the page and all, but still, you are encouraged to separate your style to another file entirely. So for that, we'll be creating another file. I'll do this new file. I can call this style.css. So take note of the extension. Then inside here, let's say I want to style my H. Which element do we style now? Let's say I want to style our paragraph now. Let's give it a background color. So if you notice, by virtue of using VS Code, depending on if you have the right extension installed, it's already giving you some suggestion as to what you are trying to do. Okay, but if you have to use stuff like Notepad, you won't get all the suggestion. Except probably you are using maybe Notepad plus plus or something. But this. So now this is an external style sheet I just created. The next thing I'm going to do is to link this style sheet. Because for now, I'm setting paragraph to have this color. Why did I even choose this color? Let's leave it that way. To have this particular color. So we have one paragraph here. I'm going to go to my web page and reload. But doing that is not going to reflect. Why? Because if you are creating a style externally, you still need to come to your web page and link it. So I'm going to go back to the HTML file. I'm going to do this. I'm going to create a new Taco link. Well, cause style sheet, then href. Href is pointing to the location, so I'll do dot slash style sheet. So doing this, you have imported all the styles you have on your style.css. So now let me go back now and see if our paragraph is carrying the right background. Now it's reflecting. Okay, so that is style sheet for you. So you can do your inline, which is the what we use for the H1. You can do internal, which is what we have over here, or you can do external. But it's advisable you do styling externally so that your HTML element is more focused on content. Your styling is more focused on what? Making your content more visually appealing. Okay. So it makes your whole code base look more neater. Okay. So let's go back to the slide. We'll be doing a lot of back and forth today. So back to the slide. Okay. So I'm going back to this slide. So while I work on that, I'll just quickly see if there's any question. It's like it's good to know that today we don't really have. It's like everyone is understanding everything, which is nice. Okay, so sir, you should use the break tag for when return to break. Okay, that works as well. So the thing is like I said, I can't show all the tags here. My job, yeah, the job you gave to me is to give you the right foundation, what you should be looking at when you're doing stuff like this. And if you notice in the time past, not in the so far, almost all the classes I've had so far, you see stuff like documentation, you see stuff like encouraging you to go and get up more on it. So there's high tendency that what we are showing you might not be enough for you to build something that you regularly see, maybe a dashboard. But it should be enough to let you know how to start. Then you research. And what we are giving you will guide you to asking the right questions when you are when you are searching for stuffs. Okay. So I'll be going back to the slide now. Um, Probably we'll just take a break now because this is already 7:59 and it's already close to time for attendance. So I'll take a pause here and look at questions. Then from there we get our break. Then when we come back from the break, we'll continue with the class. Okay, so let's see. Is there any question? So somebody said this is the part I've been waiting for. So you never enjoyed the whole backend we are doing so far. Yeah, sorry. Uh, yeah, we have to do more research. Thanks, Peter. Okay, so I think there's no question. So with that, we can do our break now. So use this time to take our attendance. When we come back, we'll continue. Thank you. that you should try as much as possible to ensure you are using the external CSS. Okay. So we proceed to the next slide. So I'm not sure if there's any. Can you hear me now, please? Can't hear me. Can you hear me now? Yeah, I think they can hear me now. Okay, cool. Okay, cool. So not I didn't say much. I'm saying that we already talked on inline CSS, right? Direct inside the HTML tag, internal CSS, just a tag inside the header to specify your styling, then external CSS, which is what a separate file. So we're clear with all this. So another thing I want to say is this. I believe already each one of us already have one or two projects we have in mind to make sure we want to do something we want to achieve. Even if you don't have, please, from today, start looking at building your portfolio. Your portfolio should just probably contain your name, your aspiration as a developer, maybe a little write-up, and languages you have done. Think of how you can style your portfolio. Then we can get it out online. Okay, so start working on something like that. For instance, now not for instance, the styling I've showed you so far will not even be enough for you to design your portfolio from start to finish. But it's good enough to let you know that there's something out there and you can research to do something better about it. Okay, so let's proceed. So we'll be talking on CSS box model. So I'll be doing a live demo on this a bit. So the CSS box model describes how every HTML element is structured as a box that wraps content. Understanding this is essential for layout and spacing. So there are four layers of boxing model. So we have the content, okay? We have the padding. So the content is the actual text, the actual elements, the actual text or image inside the elements. We have padding, right? Which is space between the content and the border. Then we have a border, the line surrounding the padding and contents and can be styled. Then we have margin. The margin is outside the border, used to separate elements from each other. So I will do a quick demo on this to make sure to help you guys get a visual view of how this looks like. But before doing that, I will just move to the next slide to show an example. So on the next slide, I have a visual representation of what the CSS box model looks like. Okay, so we have the content. The content is in the white, followed by the spacing outside the content, which is the padding, followed by the border. Then the margin is outside. It's the distance between the web page and the border. That is the margin. So let's do a quick demo on that to make more sense. Nothing. Okay, I'm going to present my screen now. So please let me know when you can see my screen. So probably I'll do something like this. Okay, let me just play with the web page a bit. So I'm going to play with this paragraph. I'm going to do something like this. It's a 30 pixel, something like that. So there are different units. Some people there's pixel, there's percentage. You guys need to research, please. Okay, there's a lot. Research. So I'm going to do this. I'm going to do this. So let me leave it as is, and I'm going to add border. Okay, so this is enough. So I'm going to go back to my web page. I'm going to reload. So our focus is this paragraph element, the one in green, right? I'm going to right click. I want to open my dev tool for Chrome, which is part of a tool you most likely use because you use it to inspect and make sure you are getting the right output. So this is what I will do. Look at this. I'm going to click on this element using this selector. I'll click on this element. So now you can already see a design by the side, showing you the CSS layouts. So inside is the content. Okay. Then between the content and the border, we have what we call padding. I gave it a padding of 30 pixels around. I don't know if you guys saw that part, right? Then between the padding, after the padding, you now have the border. This is the border. Then between the border and the page, you now have the margin. So take note of the selection when I hover on it. So this one now is the margin, right? This is the border, which I can give any thickness I want. This is the padding, which is the spacing between the content and the border. This is the content. So the reason I'm showing you all these things is because these are details you need to ensure that you properly align the content of your page. Probably you want to centralize, or you want to make sure that every content on your page carries a certain spacing. But probably you're trying to place something in a certain place and you're not getting the right positioning. You make reference to stuff like this. You need to know whether it's a padding issue or a margin issue, or maybe it's a border thickness issue. So take note of all these things. Outside the content, you have padding, border, margin. Hope I've not lost anyone so far. Is there any question on this before we proceed? I'm assuming no question. Is there any question at all before we go too far? Can we proceed? Okay, I think we can proceed. So let's go ahead and proceed. So that is using dev tool. So for those that will be asking, how did I open this dev tool? It's not difficult. It's simple way I do it. It's more of right click anywhere and click on inspect. Then this is your dev tool. You have elements, you have console, you have network to listen to, maybe API calls, or maybe a document not loading properly. There's a lot of other stuff there. Okay. So as you go, you get to use all these things there. So this is even your DOM, but let's leave that. Let's proceed. So I'll be going back to the slide. I'm going back to the slide now. So this is what we have: the content, padding, border, margin. Take note of them. So let's go to the next slide. So now we are here at Tailwind. Remember, I told you Tailwind is just a CSS framework. You can literally see it as a library that has already predefined classes. So I know I did not mention what classes. So normally we have classes and we have IDs. How do I explain this now that we not add more problem? So let's see. So the thing is this. I'll just give you a simple way of using it. So say classes can be used by multiple elements. So let me say you can say classes of, let's say, blue. You want to color everything blue. You create a class called blue. Probably when I demo this, it will make more sense, but we'll get to that. Classes can be used by multiple elements. IDs are specific to a particular element, meaning no two elements can have the same ID. We'll get to that. So Tailwind is a utility-first class CSS framework for rapidly building modern, responsive user interface. Instead of writing custom CSS like what we just did, you apply predefined utility class directly in your HTML to style elements. In other words, even if you are going to be writing style, doing the external styling with it, it might just be minute, because almost everything you need is already predefined in frameworks like this. So like I said, Tailwind is not the only one out there. We still have Bootstrap. I don't know if it's still in use, but we have Bootstrap. We have Semantic UI. But for now, I think the one most likely in use is more of Tailwind and Material UI. So feel free to play with anyone you want to play with. Okay. So key features: utility first. Use small reusable classes like P4, Text Center. We get to see how these things work a bit. Highly customizable. Tailwind can be configured to match your design system using config file. Responsive design made easy. So you see the thing I made mention of as you are building, ensuring that your design, your web page and all is responsive both on mobile and on different screens and resolution. When you use frameworks like this, automatically it's captured for you if you use it the proper way. So for instance now, I've already encouraged everyone to try and build up their portfolio. Imagine when you put in a lot of effort to make sure that your portfolio page looks nice on the web, and you maybe meet a friend that I've built my portfolio page. You give him the link, and maybe he's with his mobile phone and he opens it on his mobile phone and see that everything is distorted. You'll feel disappointed. So in cases like that, if you want to manage it manually, you'll be setting stylings for various types of screen. Maybe setting breakpoints like maybe I'm not sure if what I'm saying is adding more to your problem, but let me see. If you're using stuff like that, you need to think, okay, this is a certain style for mobile screen, this is a certain style for desktop, this is a certain style for tab. But when you use frameworks like this, automatically it's easier for you to capture all those things. Okay, so let's proceed. So another key feature for Tailwind: faster styling. You build UI quickly without switching between HTML and CSS file, because all you need are just to add classes and you remain on your HTML file. And another major key feature is what? Mobile first. Designing to build responsive layouts that adapt to what? Different screen size. So there's just a lot you get to benefit when you use frameworks like this. And I will encourage that as you are just starting new, start getting used to stuff like this. It's good you understand your normal basic styling and all, but also learn to play more with this. Okay? So we'll move over to the next slide. Let's see. Okay, so example. So over here, I have a brief example that I think I'm going to demo so you see the difference. Okay, so I'll share my screen again. Probably I'll see if I can just remain there instead of going off and on. So let me share my screen. So we're back at our web page. I'm going to go back to my editor. I'm going to go back here. My index page. Okay. So for this, we'll be playing with a button. So a button is also an element. So let me do this. I'm going to create a button. So with this, I'll be explaining how classes work. So I'll click me, something like this. Let me say I even create multiple buttons. I'll do a BL. I'll create another button. Something like this. Okay. Then I'll go back to the web page. Let's see how it looks. So we have our button down here. Okay. So let's go back. So for now, this button does not have any styling. So what I'm going to do is this. I'm going to create a styling attached to a class. So I'll go back to my page. This time around, I'm going to go to my style sheet. So This style sheet is already linked to this page by this line. So I don't need to do anything again. All I need to do is if I need a new style, I add it there. So I'm going to create a style that targets classes. I'm calling classes now. So to use classes, classes usually start with btn if you are targeting them from your style sheets. It starts with what? Dots. The btn is just the name of the class. Okay. In this case, I'm saying it represents what button. So what am I going to do? Exactly what I have on my slide. I'm going to give it a background color of blue. I'm going to give it a text color of white. I'm going to give it padding of left, right, and top bottom. The first part is top bottom, that is 10 pixel. It's referring to the top and the bottom. Then the next one, 20 pixel, is referring to the left and the right. So top, bottom, left, right will have the same of 10, 10, 20, 20. Then border radius. So border radius is used to make angular shape have curves, like by the end. You get the name of this one yourself, so don't worry. So I'll do this 5 pixel. So I'm going to go back here. I'm done doing my style. I go back to the web page, I reload. I've not applied this style, but just to make sure we're on the same page. So nothing showing. So let me go back there. So I'm just going to go to my button and do this. I'll do class. I'll do btn. I can do the same thing for this class. So that way I can easily style multiple elements with the same class. So let's go back to the web page. I reload. We have this now. Okay, we'll have this. But what I'm going to do now is this. This is using what? Without Tailwind. I did this styling directly on the CSS. I'm going to go back and do this. Sorry, go back here. I'm going to remove this styling here. This BTS. Let me go back and reload. So the button is back to being an ordinary button. So I'm going to apply another type of styling using Tailwind. So to use Tailwind, the first thing I'm going to do is to add the scripts. I'm going to do this. Script source. So do https cdn tailwind css.com. Okay, I have that now. I'm going to come here and confirm something. I'm going to reload. Already, by virtue of adding it, my page is already restructured. Just by virtue of adding what? Adding the Tailwind and this dependency library. So if I go to sources, I should see Tailwind here. Tailwind is now part of the whole full page here, CDN Tailwind. So now, this is our button. What I want to do next now is style this button without using the button class we created. So I'm going to go back there. I'm going to do this. So, like I said, still feel free to play with all these classes. You can get so many classes, predefined classes, when you look at the documentation of all this framework and all. So this is going to make the color background color blue. Get a 500. Then I make the text white. This is going to add padding, predefined padding. Padding in the S axis and padding in the Y axis. Okay, then rounded. Yeah, I think that is that. It gives it a rounded edge. So I go back here. when I do this. So this is even looking more cool. So for instance, now looking at these two buttons, I'll preferably go with this blue than this one that is shouting. So already there are already predefined colors that they're saying, okay, if you are to use this, please use something like that. But you can overwrite all these things. So for instance, let me do something like this. I'm going to use ID now. Let me copy this. I go to style. I'll do this. Okay. So to call ID, you use your hash. Classes, you use .btn. So let me say I call this background color red. So if that doesn't work, there are other things you can do, but let me see. Let's see if that will work first of all. So you see, we have red now. Okay. So because of CSS is going to place importance more on ID first before classes. ID always comes before class. Okay. But if there are cases whereby you just want to enforce, even if it doesn't come first, you can use some keywords like importance. I'll advise a research on that. I'll quickly look at the chat to see if I've probably lost someone on the way. No. So you don't need to be online before you use Tailwind. You can just probably download. So the thing is, you can download the external. There should be an external CSS or JS files thing you can use, just like every other framework and all. You can do that. And besides, all these things they are light. They are not heavy. So if you notice that if the URL has something called CDN, Content Delivery Network, if I'm not mistaken. So all these packages are already cached. So they're not even heavy at all. They're not even heavy at all. So don't be scared that probably running this is going to eat up your data. But if you don't want to, you can download the offline version of it and use. You just need to link it like a normal style sheet or JS script. Okay, it's not a must. So okay, so someone is asking a question. If one is to click me button, how can let me stop sharing. So I think I'll stop sharing. Okay. So if someone is to click on a click me button, let me go to the question again. So if one clicks on a click me button, how can one add a link to it? It says open, say to open a page. So it depends on, you can achieve this in various ways. So for instance, you can probably achieve this using an anchor tag. An anchor tag are more of links. For instance, I don't have an example here, but we can quickly do that. Let's say I go back to this screen. I'll present again. Let me share screen. So I go back to this again. So I can do something like this. I can simply decide to change this whole guy to an anchor tag. So let's see, we do this. I'll change this to A. Then I'll just set href to, let's say, want to visit Google. Something like this should be fine. So I save this. I go back here. Reload. So yeah. If you notice, it's still looking like a button. When I click, it takes me to Google. So it's not really big. You can achieve this different way. Now I'm doing this using an anchor tag. You can achieve this probably using still the same button. Then you want to probably add a function that should go to a certain place when that button is clicked. So depending on what you're trying to achieve. So it's not really an issue. So I'll be looking if there's any other question again. Can you help to the download this CDN and how to link it properly? No, I want you to take that one as your assignment. It's not like I can't. Uh, but let me see if I can do something quickly on that. So, uh, no, what? Just research on it. If you have an issue of getting access to it, you can ask the question during the next class. Any of my instructors should be able to take it. I want you guys to get your hands dirty by trying to solve some little things on your own. Okay, it's not really an issue. So, we'll be going back to the slide now. So we've seen the difference without Tailwind and with Tailwind. We even notice that the moment you added Tailwind, the whole structure changed. The whole structure of the web page changed. Okay, so practice makes perfect. You need to practice more with all this stuff so you get the hang of it. So we'll be moving to the next slide. Before we proceed, is there any question? So if you are using Node.js, you might probably Node.js and Tailwind. Tailwind most likely is more for front end, except you are saying maybe in a React project or Vue project. You can download the Node, install the Node version, the npm version. So just research on it. It's not really an issue. Is there any question pertaining to what you have learned so far? At what point do we link back end to front end? So we'll be doing that. I think that is next week. I'm at the first class of next week. I just hope you are ready for it. What is your name? Is it Peter? No, that is Deji. So we'll be doing that very soon. So we'll be doing that very soon because without that handshake, all these things we are doing so far is kind of useless somehow. So let's proceed. So why use Tailwind? We have speeds up development, promote consistency, reduce the need to write custom CSS, and popular with frameworks like React, Vue, Next.js, which you guys will be exposed to tomorrow. So for our class tomorrow, we'll be introducing you to one of all these frameworks, maybe React, maybe Vue, maybe Next.js. But like I said, nothing stops you from exploring with others, even if we decide to choose to expose you to just one. Like for now, I'm only exposing you to Tailwind, but you can play with Material UI depending on you. You might get employed to a company and they tell you they don't use Tailwind. What they use is Material UI. You can't tell them you don't know how to use it. So don't worry, they're pretty much same thing. Just try to understand the flow. Try to understand the flow and learn to read up documentation. So let's proceed. At what point we link? So I think I'm not sure there's any other. How do I go about the Tailwind installation? So depending on what you are trying to do. So for now, I have this on just a plain HTML and CSS file, a plain HTML file. All I needed to do was to call the script tag and put it as a source. I'm not doing any installation. But if you are using things like React, Vue, and Next.js, you might need to install it. And by the time you just go to your browser, maybe you want to try this later and just type Tailwind documentation. The first link you see, click on it, you are going to even see step-by-step installation process. I remember what I told you guys, you need to learn to follow instructions. That is the best way you're going to learn the whole of all this software development as a whole. No one is going to spoon feed everything to you. If not, you won't go. So go there and follow steps. And if you make mistakes, no problem. Ensure that your code base you already have it on a repo. You're using Git. So by the time there's an issue, you can easily return back. You can easily reset, and it's as if you did nothing wrong. Okay? So go ahead and explore. So using Tailwind, like the way you see me did, I added this source, this script tag. inside the header, since I'm doing it via CDN. I already told you the meaning of CDN. Okay. So we'll be proceeding to the next slide, which is JavaScript. So far we have touched a bit on HTML, right? We've touched a bit on CSS. Now we have also touched a bit on what Tailwind. Now we're doing JavaScript. And I'm not sure we'll be spending much on JavaScript because I believe I believe everyone here already knows how to use TypeScript, right? Let me ask that question. Are we all familiar with TypeScript now? Please say yes. I'm begging you. So I'm assuming yes. Let me say the yes in my head. So if you're already familiar with TypeScript, then JavaScript shouldn't be an issue to you in a way. Okay? Is that crying emoji I'm seeing? Come on, you'll be fine. So not so well. Yeah, not so well. I'm not expecting you to be perfect with it now. It's just a week or 2 weeks, but you'll be fine. So let's talk on JavaScript. So JavaScript is a programming language used to make web page interactive and dynamic. Okay. So why HTML builds the structure, right? We all know HTML is all about structure. CSS is all about what? Styling. JavaScript adds what? Behavior. Makes things interactive, like clicking buttons, like changing content, validating form, loading data without refreshing. Like for instance, now you see, you probably go to your Facebook on a browser. You are scrolling, and automatically you are getting more data. What is doing that thing for you? What is making that call for you? It's JavaScript. Okay, without the need for you to refresh that page before you see new data. That is JavaScript. So key feature, client side, it runs in the user web browser. So let no one ask me, but we have Node.js. We know that is the server side of JavaScript. But basically, before the own Node.js, it runs on what? On the browser, right? Cool. So interactivity makes page response to user action. Dynamically updates content without reloading. So works with HTML and CSS to create complete web experience. And it's also using what? Your server side. So I want us to quickly dive into a little coding on JavaScript so we can play more with our buttons, the buttons we have on our page. So what can you do with JavaScript? You can use JavaScript to show and hide elements. You can validate form inputs, create slider, tabs, pop-up, fetch data, response to click. There are so many things you can do with JavaScript. Okay, so many actions. So I'll be sharing my screen now. So we start playing with some little JavaScript. And probably you see the difference between having a client-side JavaScript and your server side, which is Node.js. So I'll be sharing my screen again. I'm hoping this is the last time for today. I'm assuming some of us are already tired with the whole sharing of screen stuff. So let's go back there. So I'm sharing my screen again. So back to my web page. I'm going to play with the buttons. So I'm going to go here. So let's see. Let me go back to my this way. So you should be seeing my screen now, hopefully. So what do I want to do? Yep. I want to add, let me clear this p tag. It's not wrapping as I want. I don't need it again. So let me also take this out. This anchor tag out. So we'll focus on this, on just the button. So what do I want to do? I want to add a clicking function to this guy. So we already have click me. So we want to do something when we click on this button. In this case, like what the basic example I have on my page or my slide is what? Say hello. So what am I going to do? I'm going to create a script. So all JavaScript goes into a script tag. So this time around, I'm writing this script inside a page. I can decide to create an external JS file and I import it. But let's do this for now. Okay. So I'm going to create a function. Let me say hello. The function does not take in any parameter. And all it does is what? Alerts. And another thing I will say is, you see the way we use more of console log when we are using the server side. It still works here as well. Let me see the console log. So many a times the reason why we use console log is mainly for debugging purpose, to check if something is working as it should. Okay, so this is a function. I've created this function. All I need now is to attach this function to this button. So button has an attribute called onClick. Okay, it also has on double click. So on click, I want to call this function say hello. And that is that. So I'm going to go back to my page. I'm going to reload this page. I've removed the paragraph. I've removed the other anchor tag. All I have is this click me. I'm going to click on this console tab. There's a reason I didn't close this. I want you guys to be seeing this. So I'm going to click on click me. So the moment you see click me, there's an alert saying hello world. When I click OK, it's done. And you can also see on this console by the right, it is working, right? Which is the message I added for the console here. So this is just a simple demo. There's a lot you can do. I'm still looking forward to see what you guys are going to do with all this little stuff I've showed you guys so far. There's really a lot you can do. Okay, so we'll be going back to the slide again. Hopefully this is the last time I might be sharing my screen. So going back to the slide again. So before I go further, is there any question? I'll be looking at the chat box now to see if there's any question. Please, how do you download plain HTML? Please, how to download. Okay, I'm enjoying the questions I'm seeing already here, and I like you that you guys are already finding a way to solve this problem. But please, as you're asking questions, also learn how to search by yourself as well. Okay, nothing stops you from typing online and asking basic questions as well on your own, and be patient. And another advice I would do is drop here is, if you are trying something for a long time and it's not working, probably you want to give it a break and come back to it. Then probably you can seek out help from others that might have better knowledge compared to you. Okay, so we'll be proceeding to the next slide since there is no question. There's no question. There's actually no question. No question. There's no question pertaining to this. So let's proceed to the next slide. So, okay. So the next slide. So JavaScript tools and use cases. So we have DOM manipulation, access and modifying HTML elements. Somebody's gonna ask me. Okay, let me keep that since someone asks. A few minutes, trying to share my screen properly. Okay, so we have events. Yeah, so go back. Yeah, we have events, handles click, hover from submission and all. API communicates with server. Then framework library like React, Vue, and Angular. I'm hoping to see more in the future. So JavaScript enables you to also, I want to stress on the API for those already asking, when will that handshake happen, the linking between backend and frontend. in most cases you'll be doing this using what? JavaScript. You'll be doing this using JavaScript. But if you are doing stuff like maybe PHP, you might not need to do that since everything is on one server and all. But since we have an API separate from what you are building, you'll be making those calls, those interactions using JavaScript, be it Azure's, be it Fetch API and all. You'll be doing all of that using JavaScript. Okay. So best practice. Yeah. So I'll see if I won't spend much time on this part. So use clean and semantic HTML. So I will explain what semantic HTML means. So when giving tags name, for instance, now I showed you guys we have headers, right? We have H1 down to H6, right? We also have paragraph. There's nothing stopping you for using a paragraph as an header. All you need to do is to set the right font size, make it bigger, and no one will know that it's even a paragraph tag you are using as an header, right? But it's encouraged for you to use the right semantic. If it's something is going to be an header, use header. Okay. Then we even have some other special div containers like content, aside, and all. So learn to use tags that pertain to what you are trying to do. Okay. Don't feel that because of you can be creative with your CSS, you can convert any tag to work the way you want. It will work, but it's not advisable. Okay, that's one. Then organize your CSS. So this is involving maybe around indentation, maybe around grouping and all. Please organize your code base as a whole. If I probably happen to work with any one of you and maybe you send the code and the indentation is not even proper, looking at it will even be stressful. It won't be even encouraging to work with you. So please start cultivating that habit from now. Then design for responsiveness. So, like you see, the framework we are using, which is Tailwind, still with same adaptation other framework are doing, which is mobile first. If you are building, always target mobile first. Let it be good mobile first. Then you can start looking at other screens. But by virtue of using all this framework and following all the set guidelines, all these things are already captured for you. So leverage developer tools. I just showed you guys one, which is the Chrome Dev tool. You should learn to leverage on tools like that, okay? Then optimize performance, ensure accessibility. The optimized part, well, let's leave that a bit. It's sounding more of like backend. But for ensuring accessibility, so for instance, the stores we call screen readers and all. There's possibility that the web page you are building, someone that is blind might want to do something with it. For such people, they use stuff like what screen readers. So you will learn to use attributes that can help read out stuff. So for instance, now if you're using an image tag comes with an attribute called ALT that you can specify descriptions. So that even if someone is not seeing it, by virtue of reading that attribute, you can get to know what is the kind of image being placed on that web page. Okay, so I'll be going to the next slide. So cool. So this next slide is just a summary. Then from here, we'll play around with these links we have here. And I encourage you guys to go further and look at it. So recap. In summary, HTML is all about what? Structure, right? CSS, Tailwind, the CSS is all about what? Style. JS. JS is all about behavior. Okay, so on this page, I have some few links that will help you. I believe almost everyone should have access to this slide already. So please, in your free time, if you don't have free time, please create free time. Visit all these sites. One I will even encourage more is the last one, which is Free Code Camp. It will give you guidelines on how you can get better with HTML, CSS. It's interactive and JavaScript. It's free. You register and you follow the instructions, okay? Then Tailwind and MDM Mozilla they're just documentations. So I will end the class here and I will look out for questions if there are any. So is there any question for now? So we have 2 minutes just to take questions. Is there any question? Okay, so I'm looking at the chat now to see if there's any question I can take. So it's like some are still having issues downloading Tailwind. Don't worry, I'm not helping you with this. I'm trying to believe in you. Throw more light on DOM. So DOM stands for a document object model. So I'm not sure I want to add to your problem. So, but the thing is, it gives you the ability to make change directly without reloading the page. So, for instance, now I won't be able to do a live demo example now. You can make some corrections. Okay, I think we can. Okay, we don't really have much time. You can make some correction updates on your page without reloading. By virtue of that, your JavaScript have access to every object defined on your web page. So I'll just leave it as that. You can still research more on it, so I don't add more into confusing people. Okay. W3 squeeze also not bad. You can use that as well. So no knowledge is a waste. Anywhere you feel you can get one or two, please feel free to explore. But I will encourage you to do free code camp, please, to help. Let's see. Is there any other question? So I'm guessing there's none. I'm looking. Okay. So it's safe to say almost everybody understand this. How do we make a clickable button change color? Please take this one as your assignment. So with that being said, enjoy the rest of your night. Thank you for having this session with me. Have a nice night rest from you. Thank you.